So how did I get where I am? It's been a bit of a journey, and I guess the only way to summarize it is to try and tell the whole story. At some point, you decide you want to make a change, whether it's a forced change, whether it's something you decide, whether it's an accumulation of both of those things together. At some point, you think, okay, this is how my life is. I want it to be different. So you go on this journey to try and learn new things, new ways of being, new ways of identifying with the beliefs that you hold. And you will start somewhere. You will start with something. You'll start to learn about something new. You will dive into that. And what happens is once you start diving into that, then you start to find all these other things around it. And every time you're learning about these new things and these different things that surround that original thought, they're agreeing with where you are right now, or they're like, no, not interested. So it's easy when we find a new topic and we listen to something and we go into it. And then when it expands into something else, or whether the people or the information around it changes or expands on that, you get to decide whether, oh yeah, I agree with that, or oh, I don't agree with that. And you will either attach to that and move to that new thought or that new idea or that side piece of information that's attached to the original piece, and then you'll go down that, and you will continue to do this in your quest for seeking new information. And it's not really new information that you're looking for. You're actually looking for something that you feel that you are lacking, but you don't know how to describe or understand or see that yet. So we start down this path of, for me, it was trying to manifest money and thinking, okay, if I had money, well, money's going to fix all of my problems. So that's where I need to start. So that's where my journey kind of started, because of events that went, okay, you need to change your life. You need to do something different. I went, okay, I'm going to manifest money first. That's going to fix everything. And it was only through understanding that it was like, okay, now that I've understand and learned, and I became a really good student. So I understood and I learned every single way there was to manifest money properly. And I studied with everyone. I bought all the books. I did all the tools. I did everything I could to try and manifest money to fix what my life looked like. Along that process, though, it was definitely more of, well, you can't manifest money if you still have all these shadows, all these fears, all these disbeliefs, all these doubts. So you need to start healing yourself. You need to start working on who you are and where you are holding these things in your body, because that's what's stopping you from manifesting all that money that you want. Once you start going down that healing route, then you're in a whole new world of learning more new things, learning more new understandings. And you start to learn one thing and you apply that to your life, and you start to work on it. And for me, for a lot of it, it was, well, I got to become certified in this thing so that I'm an expert at it. And so same with the manifesting money, I dove all the way in and did all the healing tools that I could to try and learn as much as I could in order to heal all those wounds so I could get them out, so I could still get all that money in. Then that became like a full-time job for me. It was like, okay, well, oh, I don't like the color of that wall. Oh, must be something I need to heal. Oh, that person's doing something. I need to heal that. Oh, the universe is giving me this situation that's happening. I need to look at that and see where I need to heal that. And it became that this was now the only way that I could operate, was looking at everything as, oh, I've got to heal that. That's something wrong with me. There's something that I need to look at and something that I need to work on within myself in order to remove that so I can then bring those things to me. And there was at one point where I said to the universe, okay, this is getting really tiring and boring. There's too much and it's taking too long. So can you give it to me a bit quicker, a bit easier? Because I want to try and get rid of it now. I feel like I've done enough work. Let's move it on. And so that's when the universe said, okay, this is what we're doing. And then that was when my husband died. And then that was like a whole new, you want everything at once? Here you go. And that becomes the biggest wake-up call, because when you're with someone for such a long period of time, you two sort of merge into one person. So your two personalities, whether one's more dominant than not, you're no longer yourself as you were as an individual, and you may not even recognize what that looks like. So for me, it was a whole journey of not just having to deal with the grief part, but it's also losing yourself, because you're like, well, who am I now? Because I was only that person that was in a couple. So that's a whole nother level of understanding yourself, and another whole level of, oh, what do I need to heal now? Oh, all these different things are happening. So then what happens then from that part is that now you're moving on to this whole new identity part of who you are, and you start analyzing not just all those fears and beliefs that you were doing first. You're now really sort of looking at your personality and who you are and who you want to be. What are the things you want to do? Because now, because you're not part of that partnership anymore, now you have that full autonomy of you get to now choose what that future's going to look like. And if you're like me, you're like, well, I don't know, I don't remember because it's been so long and now I don't know what I like. Do I like that thing that we used to do together, or do I just like things that I like? Do I still like this thing that, I used to like a long time ago? Maybe there's new things that I want to do. Maybe there's new things that I want to try. And so you go through that whole journey as you're still working on that healing and trying to get rid of all those things so you can still bring in that money so you can become that version of yourself that's now going to not only have the money to fix all your problems, but you're also going to be this person who understands and knows themselves so deeply and so well that your life is now going to become so much easier because you've done all this work and you've learned all these tools, and it's just going to be so easy and amazing. But whilst you're going through that process, because you're learning all these things and you are becoming a different person and you are experiencing new things, you want to share that. As a human, you want to go, oh, look at me, look what happened. I've done this, I've healed this, I've moved on from this. I want to go share that with people. Then you become this expert. So that's when I started writing books. That's when I started writing courses and programs and wanted to do what everyone else was doing from the people that I was learning from, because that was the natural process of, well, isn't that why you do all this healing stuff? Is so we can go through this whole journey and then we can share it with everyone else. Because then if we're in this place where we feel like we are in a more healed state, we can now share that with people and they can also become this new healed version of who they are. And I'm not gonna lie, during that whole process, it was great. There was a lot of things that I learned about myself, a lot of different ways that I could look at life. There was a lot of experiences that you can't even describe that happened, that you're like so grateful that this is now a new experience that I've now been able to receive. But then, of course, during all this process, then we still had the original reason of why I started this whole journey, which now comes to a fruition. Once you lose your husband and you get to work on yourself, now you get to go to jail for nearly 2 years. So then that was the next part of really getting to know yourself, is where you get to take yourself really to ground zero, where you get to now lose everything that you've ever known, everything that you've ever had, what your outside world looks like, how you even dress, what you drove, what you bought from the shops, how you ate, how you slept. Every single thing that you had that identified you as a person is now gone. And none of these experiences can really be told in a way that you can actually experience it unless you're in it. Because even as someone, because of all the stuff that's happened and where I'm sort of at now, writing about it, this is another book that I'm writing. It's really hard to try and describe situations that you're in without trying to explain what it feels like within your body. Because that's where I'm trying to get to, is that's where the end of it is how we feel it within our body. Because part of all that learning and part of all that healing that I did led me on that whole spiritual awakening journey as well, which is another whole expansion in yourself with all the knowledge and the things that people believe and the information that's out there and the ideas that different people have and where they sit in these beliefs and what they believe is the truth and what isn't. So it can become really, really confusing. So what I've done is, because of all these experiences, and don't think I'm just brushing over them, a lot of them are really big, and that's why I'm literally writing about them. I'm not gatekeeping them, because I think it's an important part of my journey is to be able to share them with other people for no other reason other than I want to share them. The more you learn and the more you get to experience, then becomes so great that there's so much information out there that you can no longer find something that you want to attach to. Because originally, when you're first on that journey, when you first hear someone else talk about something and you're like, oh my God, that's exactly what I need to hear. That's exactly how I'm feeling. That's exactly what's happening. And you'll attach to that and you'll start to look at them as someone who understands and knows whatever this next part is of your journey, and you'll want to follow on every single thing that they're saying. But eventually, when you move on to those other people, it's like, oh, hang on, someone else is saying something else and someone else is saying something else, and hang on, they're contradicting with each other. What do I believe now? And this is when you need to start deciding what is the right information for you. But then for me, what happens is you end up with so much information coming from the spiritual side, because that creative side of your brain is like, oh, I need all the magic, I need all the fantasy, I need all the stories. But then that logic side of your brain is going, hang on, but I need the structure, I need the proof, I need the truth. And for me, as a double Gemini, I have to sit in both of those realms and be able to balance both of them together and go, okay, well, I've got the logic, I've got the science, I've got the physics, I've got the proof of how all this works. But then I've also got the other stuff that no one can prove yet, and things that no one really believes in, but things that you've felt and you've seen and you've experienced. Now you've got to try and bring them together. And when you try to find other people like that who understand or are able to believe in those things in such a big way, it's super, super difficult. So whilst I was away at that ground zero, when you're fully stripped of everything, it's like, okay, well, I've got all these thoughts and ideas and this knowledge and these beliefs and things that I have inside my mind. That's all I have now. Because there's no access to the books or the internet or people who can bounce off those new ideas or new conversations or information that you want to talk about. So you can only rely on yourself and what you believe in and what you believe you have access to and what you believe that you can connect to and what you think you can create. So for me, that was the most important part of having that ground zero reset, was being able to literally just draw on what was in here, whether it was real or not or wherever it comes from. This is all I had was my mind. This is all I could use, was what had become of my thoughts through all the experience I had had and where I was in that moment. And so because I had all that time and I only had my own thoughts, and because it was still a mind of confusion, because I was still conflicted between all the information that I'd received from so many people and how it was so contradicting with each other, it was like, well, I just need to find a piece in there that I can hold as my own, to say, okay, this is my truth, this is what I believe in. But the problem is, because my mind and my brain and my thoughts and my ideas are always fluctuating. It's like, well, I kind of believe in this, but hang on, now I believe in that, but I believe in that. And it's hard, because the only things that I do believe in and the things that I've talked about, that I've ever talked about in my past, has always been through my own experience. So even if someone says something or believes something, I am not going to promote it or talk about it until I experience it or feel it or believe it myself. So a lot of the weird shit that goes on and that people talk about, if I've ever spoken about it, it's because something that I have experienced within myself in that moment. Whether it's something that I still hold on to now or not, that can be a whole different story. But and the thing is, though, because you're growing and you move past it all the time, even when I came back out, I deleted like 2,000 TikTok videos, because like, I don't believe half that stuff anymore. Because you just change. You're constantly growing. You're constantly finding new information. So for me, what happened while I had that full reset, I still used the information that I had access to and the beliefs that I had of the things that I decided that I could connect to, and I created a lot of things. So I finished another 2 books to finish that first manifesting money book that I started, and so I did it on the body and love as well. So I have 3 of them now that are completely done. I worked on my memoirs, which is nearly finished, of all the stories and all the experiences that have led me here. But then on top of that, because my mind was in such a confusion of, well, which way do I believe? Which I can't come out of here without a solid knowing and understanding of who I am. Because when I come out, this is the first chance for me to actually be myself, with nothing hanging over my head, with not having things that I need to deal with or distractions or anything else. It's going to be that full reset, that full ground zero, that full space where you can literally just come out and go, okay, well, this is who you are, and then that's it. And so most of my thoughts was fully locked in as well. What is it? What do I believe? And then, one day it's this piece, one day it's this piece. It's like I can't. And then you start listening to somebody, oh my God, that's right, I believe in that. Oh no, but someone else is saying something else. Oh no, hang on, yes, I believe. Oh my God, I can't believe in both of those things at the same time. So I decided that I was going to build my own foundations. I was going to strip through every single thing inside my head, every single thing that I'd experienced, I had learned, that I'd felt, that I'd believed, that I've seen someone else talk about. I was going to say, okay, well, which of those pieces am I always going to believe no matter what? It's like, So what happened was I ended up with creating these 12 foundations. So these are like the 12 areas of my life that I think I could hold on to. And I call them my loose foundations, because I know that I'm going to fluctuate and I'm going to drift over from one side to the other, because that's part of the whole idea that I believe our existence is, it's just like that infinity symbol where we are constantly ebbing and flowing from one side to the other. And I had always thought that our journey, our awakening journey, was to get to that side where it's all love and light and feeling amazing. But in my poor little brain that wanted to balance everything, it's like, well, why are we trying to head to that? Because to me, that would just mean we're unbalanced because we're leaning to one side. And it, it was only recently that I've now realized is the place that we're meant to exist is that place in the middle where we actually converge together. And it's not about staying in that good or that bad or whatever labels you want to put on them side. It's about understanding and feeling and knowing and experiencing both sides of that and just allowing them to be and not giving them the energy all the time to say, oh my God, this is so bad. But, even still knowing that there's going to be another side of that, to not anticipate the good side of it, because that's just going to make the bad side take longer because you're still sitting in it, you're still rejecting it, you're not accepting it, you're not going, okay, well, I'm here, this is where we're at. And that's the same when we're on the other side. If we're on the good side going, oh no, but this is going to turn bad, so we can't stay good forever. Instead, it's more of a balance of coming to that place in the middle, and that's where we need to exist, and that's where I talk about now, but we'll get to that in a minute. So with those foundations then, I worked out a way of all the things that I'd learned, all the things that I created, because part of that whole creative journey as well, I went off on a lot of tangents. And whilst I was away, I created a whole oracle card set. There was a t-shirt business I had before. So I attached these foundations to these different creative pursuits that I was doing. But what I also did then was attach a personal story to those foundations. So there are moments that I've lived through that then became one of those foundational pieces. And that story was then spoken through as an archetype that I've created that represents who I am and what I've experienced and what I believed in that moment and how it felt for me. And then, oh my God, I'm starting to sound like that movie. And then, okay. So once we get those foundational pieces and we get that personal story and then we get those archetypes, what happens from there is we are this foundation. So I created this whole 12 pillars of who I was and what I was. And whilst I was away, there was this name that I had that I'd written down in one of my books, and I'd never heard it before. I didn't know what it was. Anyway, when I finally came out and looked it up, it was one of those mythological characters associated with time. Anyway, from that bore out a whole new myth, and it became these two characters within the myths. And we have a lot of them. And I love a good myth. I love a good story. I love a good fantasy. We found a way, I don't know why I'm saying we. So I found a way to put these two mythological characters together to create a myth that could then tie into these foundational, these pillars. And I call them ribs now because we associate it through the body. So I created this myth of those two, and it's about time and inevitability as the two pieces of our existence and how we work. It's time that we think that controls us. It's time that we think is the key to our existence, whether we see it as something that is man-made, a construct that doesn't actually exist, or whether we see it as the thing that is literally controlling our lives and stopping us and hindering us from doing the things that we want. But then on the other side, we have inevitability, where the belief that things are always going to happen the way they're going to happen, that the things that we want to and experience is something that's always going to be there. It's inevitable. And so because I created this myth, and then I created these ribs, these foundational pieces with the archetypes, and then using this whole idea of the myth and the two characters and putting it together into this story where time and inevitability have separated and they need to come back together. And the way that they're coming back together is through the ribs of our body, which are the foundations. And the two ribs represent the light side and the dark side, the fracture and the cohesion, and where they meet is the convergence in the heart. So I've created this whole story, and it's just for me to create that foundational piece of something that I believe in. The understanding of having both those sides coming together and meeting in the middle is where the convergence and the calmness and the way that we live in acceptance of our lives in the way that it looks like makes it so much easier for my brain to comprehend. So it's created where I still have that logic, and I've created it so it makes sense, but I've also created that that fantasy part, so I can use the creativity with it. And it's now balancing all those sides of all those things that I've learned, because theoretically, at the end of the day, it's like, well, you have to have some kind of belief, because if you try and slip back into this normalcy, what you thought life was, you know that it can't be possible now because of all those new thoughts and all those new ideas in your brain. It's just as simple as thinking of one thing that just takes your mind away from what we all think exists in this world, that you can no longer go back to that normalcy. So then it has to be a degree of then something else that you believe in. And so for me, I truly believe that our existence is just a construct made up of our mind. So we are literally creating and experiencing it all within our thoughts, our consciousness, our mind, and utilizing and understanding that as the underlying tone is that, well, if that is the case, then what's the point? Because if I don't have a point to exist, well, then why am I existing? And instead of me trying to now manifest and reach for goals, but I've learned that I no longer require those things that I was trying to manifest, because I was actually just reaching for something in order to heal something else. It's like, then, well, what am I supposed to do? And so what happens is once I started realizing and creating this whole new type of existence, is that even though there's probably still things that you want to experience or those things that you want to have in this life, and trust me, I've created a list of the most ridiculous, craziest hashtag goals I could ever create. And they're the things that I work towards. And I believe that I can trust in thoughts and the ideas and the way that I present and create things, that's going to lead me towards that. And if it doesn't matter, because what I have found is every time I have created a goal that I wanted to achieve, or something that I wanted to manifest, or something that I wanted to happen, it was moving through that journey and understanding it and experiencing that it wasn't ever you getting to that place of having that thing or experiencing that thing, even though of course it still happens sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, it's like, well, okay, I've been doing this for so long and I didn't get that, but hang on, what have I turned into? What have I learned? What have I become? What am I feeling? And I can tell you, even coming out and just starting again, literally from nothing, with nothing, and trying to rebuild your life again, it's like, I don't care. And that's a horrible way to say it. It's not like you don't care. It's just none of it really matters anymore. The importance that I used to place on the things before no longer are important. And it's not like we take away this whole idea, well, there's no point in existing, and all these new words that I never knew or never heard or never remembered existed, like the nihilism and stuff. And it's not so much about that of just pretending that there's no point because everything doesn't really exist anyway. It's not that. It's still grounded into an idea or belief that I can hold, that I can still exist in this plane, with idea that I'm still moving towards those things that I do still want to create, and those things that I do still want to see manifest, and those experiences that I do still want to have. But because someone who is very floating does get lost a lot in the overthinking and the trying to listen and hear and know and feel all these things, that's why I created that whole idea for myself, is so that now that I have this own myth and these own foundations and these old creations, I have these different areas that I can now float through, and they're all mine. Nothing's new. Everything's just recycled. It's just told a different way. It's just presented a different way. So it's just always you drawing on information that you experience or you feel or you think that you know, that you then created in a way that works for you. And part of what I do now is, because of the thoughts and the ideas and the way that I can see all sides of a belief or something that happens, I always now just bring it back to how does it feel? Because regardless of how we think and what we believe, and if we do understand and know that we're these energetic beings and we feel things and we fluctuate through this experience or whatever it is, but that comes back to our idea of how do we even exist anyway? If you even still look at that, it's the only way that we can actually use to give us the tools to make it real, is that as a human being, we only have this body to allow ourselves to experience. So we can only use our senses and the way that they are processed for us to experience things. I use my body to give me the answers because as humans, because we only have this physical body that we have to allow us to experience this existence, I think we need to understand it on such a deep level that we get to know it so well that we can really utilize the way that it operates in order for us to facilitate a better experience around us. So even though sometimes our thoughts and our beliefs and our experiences can alter the way that it's responding within our body, because we've done all those back tools of the money manifestation, healing, and then doing energy work, and then connecting with things beyond our imagination and understanding, if we've been through that whole journey, we have this whole toolbox of experiences and understanding ourselves on so many different levels that we can really find out a way to discern and really to understand where we're getting those reactions. What are those reactions for? How do they feel? Is that a yes? Is that a no? And I do believe that in my experience that your body does tell you things quicker than your mind does. Even though sometimes you will have those thoughts and those ideas that pop in and there, those pieces of clarity, when your mind is not distorted, it doesn't have interference, and it's giving you a clear signal that you can really listen to those ideas. But because we are so built and based on the thoughts that we have in our mind and the way that our brain works and it put things together, sometimes the body may be distorted. So it's understanding how our body is going to feel about things and really understanding how the brain and the body work and how they work together in order to facilitate our feeling toward the things that are going on around us. And it's simple as just watching a video or watching an experience or reading something or doing something that you will notice things. And this is what my first 3 books are about, is really just noticing how things work. So if you're doing something, you will feel these thoughts. You will hear and identify these thoughts within your brain. You will feel things within your body. And it's really just getting to that point where you can really notice and understand what that is and what it's doing and why it's doing it and how it works and how it works for you, that you can really get to understand how everything works. So instead of you trying to manifest a goal for the future, you're now thinking and feeling, oh, I want to experience this, and you create these ridiculous ideas of things that you want to let this human body have within their time while they're here and while we're existing and believing in what we exist as. The thoughts and the ideas and the way that things now come to you will be aligned to that. Whereas before, when you were trying to manifest $10,000 or you wanted a brand new car, that was getting you into the state of that person who believes that if you're at a certain vibrational level, that you could achieve those things. There's a piece beyond that that you keep expanding into, where it's not about manifesting that $10,000 or that car. Instead, you are in such a coherent state that the natural essence of who you are gets to shine, wants to experience, wants to create, because that is the ultimate sort of finite expression of who we are, is the way that we create. And when we get into that coherent state between our body and our mind and our heart and everything else around us, the thoughts that we create and the things that we want to do become so clear and so focused that it no longer seems a challenge. It no longer seems like something you need to heal. You no longer attract to finding answers from people. You no longer search for the meaning for things. Instead, you just get to exist. And the hard part for us, well, us, I say me, was starting to get those lulls where you have those moments where there is nothing. It's not bad. It's not good. You were just in those perfectly quiet moments of clear nothingness, and our brains and our experience and everything else that we've ever known searches for something else. It's like, shouldn't I be doing something? Do I need to create something? Do I need to heal something? Do I need to move? Do I need to think about something? And you will notice that when you find those pieces of clarity, it's like, I've got to search for something. And sometimes I see the thoughts that pop up in my mind. It's like, why are we even thinking about that? Why are we still talking about that? Like, that's you reaching for something because you don't have anything that you have to attach your mind to, or something that you really need to think about and work through and overthink and make decisions and have imaginary conversations in your head. It's like, okay, I'm going to reach for something that I used to do. And it's like, there's no point in thinking about that. There's no point in even going to that place because it's no longer relevant. It's got no no feeling in your body. There's no point going back to that. But because your brain's not used to that quiet, it keeps searching for what it used to do. After everything that I've experienced, everything that I've learnt, all the knowledge that I thought I needed to have, all the healing that I thought I needed to do, all the horrible experiences that I've been through, and the deep understanding of who I am on so many levels. At the end of the day, I can only exist in the way that I believe that I can exist. And I honestly, truly think that it is just something that is a construct of our mind, and that we do get to experience this experience through the thoughts and ideas that we have and the way that we feel it within our body. So if we lose every single other belief and every single idea that anyone's ever given us, and just only hold those pieces that you can believe, that you feel are true for you, and they just exist in that space of knowing that we are still going to ebb and flow, we are still going to exist in a place where there are things that don't feel good, but there's also going to be things that do feel good. And it's not about staying on one side or the other, it's just understanding that we are just drifting through and moving from one side to the other, so that we can balance and sit in that space of where that convergence is, and we can sit in that space a lot longer than sitting in those extremities. And it's not just about looking for the highs or the feel good moments all the time, because if we were in them all the time, they wouldn't feel as good as they were if we weren't able to experience the other side of that. If we can just allow our life to be a journey and to be an experience, and quietly move towards those things that we would like to have a go at, or see what it feels like to be in, or to touch, or to do, or to have. And that our existence, that our journey is always going to be okay, that we're always going to survive, we're always going to get through from one side to the other. And even through those moments that don't feel great, we know that we're always going to get through it, and it's just an experience. And we get to that space where we just get to exist. Because I think it was even Carl Jung, after all his studies and everything that he learned, the only thing he could fully say yes to was that we exist.